So, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Eliseo, and I've played with Strong Sanfará, Dave Samuels, Juan Gabriel, Vicky Carr, Ednita Nazario, Wilkins, and and others. So, when you think about keyboard bass, usually you think about Michael Jackson, Thriller, Madonna, Into the Groove. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a few of those samples on the keyboard and then on the bass, and so you can see that sometimes it's easier to play it on the keyboards when it's there's something about the keyboard layout that everything is all the same, and on the bass you have to do a lot of fingerings and try different approaches. So I'm gonna play the original on, well, not the original exactly, but something similar to the, because I don't have the paper for that. So I'm what I heard, and then I'm gonna play it on the bass. You can tell me which one you like best. Is it the keyboard bass or the bass guitar? I'm not gonna say, I was gonna say the real bass, but it's not. Nothing is real anymore. I mean, you gotta understand that now with the digital thing, we have real basses on a keyboard and real pianos on a guitar synthesizer. It's good in a way, but it's also it's different. When you play a keyboard, you have a certain facility for certain techniques, the octaves, it's different. When you play a real bass, it's a little more challenging to get it to sound so percussive. The keyboard sounds, to me, it sounds more percussive. For those, styles like dancing, and reggaeton, trap, trapetón. I'll see you after the bass samples. So I would like to talk a little bit about the history of Moog, and I also have a surprise for you. He's one of the guys that I respect mostly because he knows a lot about synthesizers and all that stuff. So we'll do a little section with him. But before, I would like to tell you about my story or my history with this instrument, with the multi-moog. The multi-moog was built actually in 1978. When I started, it was 1971 or something. So what happened is my brother had a roommate, and unfortunately he died, and he was a musician. He had a bunch of stuff, a bunch of gear, and my brother told me, why don't you come and get it? So I got it, and I didn't use it that much. One day I just decided to to clean it up and have it in a working condition. So I took it to one of my favorite places here in LA, which is Advanced Music. They deal with the keyboards from Stevie Wonder. So I had it kind of restored, cleaned, and basically that's all it needed, because I had like tendonitis, and I was playing with this band, and they were rehearsing a lot, and there was a lot of work, and we were gigging a lot too. I think it was called Cubanacan. I used the keyboard as a bass, on top of my amp, with the bass hanging, and using the keyboard, I gave a break to my left hand. So now, as I promised, we have our synth talk with Mr. the Great Abel Pabón, directly from Miami.
Hi everyone, hi Eliseo. Hope everybody's doing good and staying safe. Wow, that was too big of an intro, but really appreciate. Thank you. So, as far as what I've done through the years, first, I met Eliseo in Puerto Rico when I joined a band that he had with some other musicians from the area called Terranova. That was one of my first experiences playing, because I started playing piano when I was older. I used to play drums before, so I started playing piano when I was 21. While doing that, I also started playing Latin music. I ended up playing with Batacumbele for a year, which that was amazing because Cachete Maldonado, Giovanni Hidalgo, Juancito Torres, great musicians from Puerto Rico, Papo Vázquez and Eddie Guagua Rivera, bass player. And then I ended up playing with Nestor Torres, which I played with him for years. Also Roberto Pereira, the harpist, and also a great steel drummer virtuoso, Othello Molino, great jazz player in the steel drum, which I produced for Roberto 2 albums, and for Othello 1 album. That's kind of like a recollection of what I've been doing through the years. Commercially speaking, it was Moog and ARP synthesizers, which were the 2 different ones, and then eventually came Oberheim and sequential circuits, which were polyphonic. The first ones were monophonic. You could only play 1 note at a time. The thing about them, they have a particular character, even when you play them down, because, it's just circuits and oscillators and filters, and each one of them had their own personality. They were kind of temperamental, especially with the tuning and stuff like that. very temperamental that you have to deal with, which dealing with that temperamental thing, could help you in other things in life too. But anyway, that's another story. Now, there's some emulations now, that are more digital and software, that they come close to the actual sound, but it's not the same. Two of them, this one here, which is the Minimoog, and this one here, which is the ARP Odyssey. And there's another one that I have around. There's an ARP 2600, which is the one that has patch chords and stuff like that, Because now, on a keyboard, you could imitate all of them, but it's the same circuitry, even though there's software there, and they emulate them, but it's coming out of the same output, and it's not the same. I think it was Santana who said many years ago in the early days that the Moog was like a macho kind of sounding, and the ARP, the other one, the Odyssey, was more of like a female kind of sound, and he was right at that. Basically, many of the synthesizers are great because each one has its character and it's got its own niche, which they fit in for different things. So it's there's so many things you can do with all of them, and when you're doing a production, it's much easier to go on a computer, pull out a plugin with the sound if they're going to be on a heavy mix, and use them, and there's no problem with that, most of the time. As far as analog versus digital, I think they just complement each other. I have myself plugins for almost every synth that I own in hardware, and I end up using them more because it's much easier to deal with when you're doing something fairly quick. Now, if you're gonna do a little bit more, you want to go more for a certain type of detail, you might want to go with the analog because of the sound, but each one of them has its own place, and the stuff coming out right now, it's incredible. For a bass player to be able to play synth, especially for synth bass, I think it's a great thing because not only it gives you more opportunities of work, but today's music, it's got sometimes some styles of music depend so much on synth bass, and even though, of course, if you're a bass player, you just want to play bass, but you can add it, a bass player knows how to handle that low end and the lines down there sometimes better than a keyboard player, Of course, as I said, there's some parts that are more played like a synth, but having that mentality of a bass player, you get acquainted with a keyboard, and all of a sudden you could be doing some keyboard parts in a part that you're not playing, and it's great nowadays, with the music, that there's so many different things, and keyboards are an important part again in music, because it goes in by eras, I guess. I don't know, but now it's gonna stay there. Keyboards are gonna stay there.
I hope you found this interesting, and remember to subscribe, give me pulgarcito, and also if you feel like donating something, $1 or two, because we're not working. Musicians are not working, and the pandemic unemployment assistance, I tried to get it, but I'm not getting it. So if you can donate, it will help. But otherwise, you can still have the information for free. And I hope to see you soon. I hope to see you.